Hi, welcome to episode 206 of the Brewgooders, the beer, comics, and a sort of geekery podcast. I'm Jeff, and to my right, but not as far as we're aware, a member of the far right, is John Bruce. How are you doing, John? You all right?
I'm fine, yes. How are you tonight?
Yeah, all right. Running about like a wee daft day, but okay. How was your week been? All right?
Usual, yeah. Quite quiet and then worked the past couple of days. So this is the middle of my working week. I work Wednesday to Saturday, so we're bang smack in the middle. So almost over the hump.
Almost over the hump.
Almost.
Yeah. I suppose that's what's good about being a school teacher, is your hump's just done. Like your hump's like, it's before it's come for you, that. So, like, I'm on the home stretch now, which is good.
Excellent.
We're going to just chat some comics and some sort of geekery tonight, and we're really fortunate. So we're participating in the Glasgow Comic Art Festival next week, and we are totally thrilled to have Sarah Allan, who is AKA TheRoaringRaar, who is the Grand Supremo of Glasgow Comic Art Fest. So I'm really glad that she could join us. She is a comic art graduate from Dundee. Who Sarah sent me like a wee blurb, and I fired it through ChatGPT, and it's full of it's like it's the most cheesy like stuff. She's looking to make some big things happen in sort of small scene comics, which is really exciting, and sort of the independent comic scene. And when she's not doing that, she's fueled by chocolate, hoarding books, and shooting and spending time with her granny. So there you go.
Cool.
So here to talk about our gran and maybe some comics is none other than Sarah.
I could talk about my granny all day, and I do to just about everybody. So yeah.
What's the big granny? What's your granny's thing? Why is she so awesome?
She also loves comics. She's encouraged me to read comics since I was very young, because her philosophy was, as long as the children are reading, doesn't matter what they're reading.
Yes.
So even though other members of my family aren't huge readers, they would try and encourage me to read books, but I didn't have the attention span for it or the interest, at least not till my late teens. But loved comics, and Granny said, just let her read the comics, because then she's reading. And I've been finding out in the last couple of years that my granny used to be an avid comic collector until her marriage days, and then her comics just disappeared all over time. I was like, no, that could have been an archive. Give me. So I was gutted to hear that most of them were gone, and so is she. So I'm kind of making it a goal to find out all the comics that she loved and see if I can find them anywhere for her.
Right. There's folk out there that help you. Like I don't know if you know Richard Sheaf, but he does. We've had him on the show before, and he archives comics and has like some of the most bizarre stuff out there. And so I'll give you his. If it's out there, he either has it or knows where to get it for you. So
that would be great, because I'm definitely on the hunt for more printed comics, especially ones that are not archived digitally, because they're either never going to be archived digitally, or if they are, they could be heavily censored.
Yeah, I wrote a football comic a couple of years ago, and as I was doing it, I was trying to lean heavily into a lot of the sort of the boys football comics from the 60s and 70s, and they're very hard to get hold of. And the ones that are archived, like you say, there's stuff that was maybe acceptable in the 60s and 70s, in the advertising sections that they can't advertise anymore in boys comics. So apparently smoking's bad for you. So is drinking. It's so nice to have you on. Thank you for joining us. I did kind of spring on you quite. We have a group chat for the podcast, and we did have our guest who couldn't make it, and then it was our man Colin who was like, when you ask Sarah at the Glasgow Comic Art Festival and see if she's available. So yeah, and you were, so that's amazing. So
you caught me on my day off.
No, good. But yeah, please tell us a bit about you. Like, what's yourself? Like, where who are you? Where have you? How have you found yourself in the comics world?
Well, I've been doing comic vending for ages, probably since I was about 18, 19, when I started doing things like art on the exchange in Glasgow, where it would be this like brilliant outdoor art space with like plenty of vendors and things. It was great. And I was mostly just selling clay pieces or small printed works. And then as more comic events started to pop up within Glasgow, I was attending them and loved it. I just loved the atmosphere. Like Okinawa was like the first proper Comic Con I went to. I think that was in 2007 or 8, roughly around then. And I loved it there. I loved that there was panels, there were people to talk to. There was a lot of like kind of local vendors. I very much enjoyed it, and I got to see similar things at different cons around the country. Like I went to one in Leicester. I can't remember what it was called, but it might just been Leicester Comic Con. But I loved that there was film screenings there. There was workshops. I could chat to artists who were publishing their books at that time. Loved it, and I've noticed that in the last kind of maybe 5 or so years where there's less and less of that. It's more about turn up, maybe see celebrities, do see some great vendors and other bits and pieces, but it's a lot of stuff you could do in an hour. And maybe some of the celebrity bits are kind of spread out. But if you're not interested in those celebrities, then there's not much else to do. So my big thing was, one, I wanted a comic event that was more centered to adult and mature content, because none of them are catered to that. I was very much jealous of like YahwehCon and FlameCon, which happens over in America, and they probably have very similar ones across the world too, like in Korea and Japan. But that just doesn't exist here. And the reason why I want a more adult, mature, focus-centered one is because comics are meant to be for everyone, but all the other comic events are all ages, and everyone respects that. Everyone respects that, hey, can't have adult content out, can't have anything out that is not appropriate for people or that people haven't consented to. So I want to make an event where people consent to potentially seeing some tits on display.
Well, I'm on my way.
Doesn't have to be. Definitely doesn't have to be, but I'm all for it.
Well, we ran a comic arts fair in Dunfermline last year, and certainly most of the stuff, if not all, bar one or two tables, were we ran like an all ages event that was big, and actually one of the vendors that was there, and a friend of ours, Mark, he was saying he found that his stuff is kind of age geared towards that sort of older age. And he found that quite tricky. Like, we were one of his first cons, if not his first, and he did say that. He was like, actually, he's like, there isn't much of a there isn't the capacity for me to really push my book here, because the rest of us, like, I hand over, if folk are coming to look at my table, I hand them copies of my book and just ask them to flick through. And because of like the more mature content in his book, he couldn't do that, and he found that actually quite detrimental to how well he did on the day compared to everyone else, So
exactly, considering the money you spend on the tables at a lot of these events, not being able to pitch your product is a big setback. Like, what's the point in being there if you can't pitch it? So I'm hoping that GCAF will be the place that a lot of people can show off the content they normally can't.
We were really excited to go. The venue's quite awesome as well. Your host, I don't know if that's the if you were always aiming for the trade halls, but it's such a unique venue. I think it's pretty stunning.
You've got the Goth Market to thank for that, because the Glasgow Goth Market's held there. They used to be held at Slay, and then I think something happened with their table supplier, so they moved to the trade halls, who do have their own tables. Far better space. It's a lot more spread out. They have great disabled access, like brilliant wheelchair lifts. Because when I went to the Goth Market in Slay, there was a wheelchair lift, but we had to wait quite a long time for someone to have a key to let us down. Because I often travel with a friend who is wheelchair bound, so until people let us in, we can't go anywhere. So seeing that we could easily just roll in, she's got access to the wheelchair lifts, and there's platforms that are easy to get up as well. So that sold it for me right there. I had to make sure this venue was accessible because there quite a few other places I was looking at were either downstairs where they had no lift or any accessible access, or it was just a hassle to get to if you were going by public transport.
Yeah.
So trade halls was ideal, expensive but ideal.
It's well, yeah. I think you're getting what you pay for, though, aren't you? 'Cause like you say, it's accessible.
Absolutely.
In terms of accessibility for patrons and for guests and stuff. Also, it is bang centre in the middle of Glasgow. Is it Merchant City? Merchant City's
Glasford Street, yeah. Just about every major bus that goes through Glasgow will at least go through Argyle Street at some point in time. So they're bound to either go by Glasford Street or on Ingram or Queen Street. It's very easy to get to. And with it being on a major crossroad, there's a lot of points where everybody's able to safely get there too. So they're not having to dart across a road or make themselves unsafe to get there.
Oh, totally. And that's really super important. And as I say, we ran an event last year, and these are things that I hadn't really thought about when I booked it, and like spent so much time. Like, a venue having its own tables. You think we'd our venue didn't have tables, but we were very lucky in that we were supported by a community venture nearby that provided us with tables. But that's like totally like what a given you would think a venue having tables, and actually how essential they are, obviously, and like how like it's like sort of rudimentary that you need them, and then when you don't have them, you're like, oh my goodness, this is a bit. Consider it something that's quite handy, very handy, and should be easily accessible and attainable. Sorry, you're like, what? So yeah, the fact that you've got that, how's the feedback been for how's the feedback been with guests and
well, handful tickets have already been selling, and the vendors have been sharing it across their platforms, especially ones that are quite prominent amongst a lot of the events, like Little Shop of Chaos, Connor Cottontail. Trying to think of other ones. Harry Tomlinson, he's here right now. He's going to be there as well.
He says,
he's very supportive. So yeah. There's quite a few folk that are prominent amongst a lot of the events. Like everyone sees them. They're almost at every single one. So they're all going to be there, and that's very encouraging because quite a few are choosing to be at my event over Acme. Some are doing both on the same day. So they're going to go do Acme during the day and then come to mine afterwards. I thought, oh, pet, no, please don't collapse.
Yeah, that's quite a difficult one to balance as well, because I suppose it's not that far away, but in terms of like geography, but in terms of like packing up and moving and opening that, that's fair play.
yeah, exactly. Fair play to them. Hell mind them. I hope they do well. But also, some folk that aren't able to come to mine have very kindly got leaflets, and they've been handing them out everywhere. So Forbidden Planet are going to be there too, and they've got leaflets and posters in their store. So there's been a lot of community support. So I've done as much as I can. Everyone else has been doing as much as they can. So we'll just see how it goes. But that's why I tried to make sure the tables were really cheap for this. So, because most of the time, quite a lot of events now are over £100 to get a table. Well over that now, some places. So, you get a full size 4x6 trestle table. That's only £35. So at the very least, if this event doesn't bring in the numbers that I really hope it does, no one's out of pocket. Like no one's out of pocket by a major sense than what you would if you paid £100 for a table, and then your travel cost and food for the day and product cost. But tickets have been selling, and there has been interaction across Facebook and Instagram. Whenever I get a free day, or if I'm skiving a wee bit at work, I'm sharing the event in every single Facebook group I think might be related.
Your presence has been great. Certainly, we're going to go the whole hog with it next week as well. We're really excited because obviously, like, you've got Colin and you've got Crana, who are part of our team, Colin Maxwell and David Crana, and they're both buzzing as well. And Aye, we're really excited. We're all cramming into my wee Fiat 500 tomorrow, and then next Saturday to get along. So, no, but I think what you say there about like table prices and stuff like that. So obviously, it makes a massive difference to your trade, like your traders and your more than like I hadn't really thought about it. But we did Thought Bubble last year, 2 weeks before we did our event in Dunfermline, and it was our friend Sam kind of came over. I remember seeing him in Harrogate, and it was his first time doing Thought Bubble, and Thought Bubble was an amazing event. It's like probably the best independent comic event in the UK, if not the best, and it wins awards every year for being so. But it's really hard as a trader because you're genuinely sharing your hall with some of the best comic creators in the world, and it's like I definitely struggled with it last year in particular. I struggled a bit with imposter syndrome and being like, oh I'm kind of like 2 tables away from guys that are like drawing for like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that, like the actual comic series, and speaking to my friend Sam, and he was like, I'm really struggling here. There's just so much choice, and there's so much quality, and there's just so much amazingness here that I'm struggling to get people to take a wee chance on my unknown like horror comic. But then he was a couple of weeks later did Dunfermline with us, and very kind of similar to what you were doing. Probably in terms of less accessible in terms of like getting in and out of the hall, admittedly. But like Sam came to me at like just before lunchtime on the day. We ran from 10 till 5, and he came to me about 11:30. Was like, "You have already like made more of a profit here than I did in my entire weekend at Harrogate." Because, like you say, by the time you factor in your hotel and you're getting down here and going to the Majestic on a Saturday night to like mingle and peruse for your like £8 pints and stuff, I guess like it all adds up, and by the end of it, like you could be like 200 quid down, like despite being there to make money. So
easily,
it's amazing. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm worried Thought Bubble's going to turn into big publishers only because they'll be the only ones that could afford it. But I get why it is that expensive. It's a huge hall. It's a big venue. There's staff to pay. There's the venue to pay. There's a lot to get done. But I think it is why I think a lot of folk are doing better at the smaller events. I was at DCon last year. So that's up at Dundee University, run by the students up there. Best event of the year. Absolute best event I've had all year. That was fantastic. So I'm going again, hoping for the same result, or at very least very close to it. Because that was fantastic. Like that I brought in more than my month's rent in that one day. So I'm hoping to do that again. But at most events, I'll maybe bring in somewhere between 100 to 150, and then again take away the travel cost, the 50 or so quid I will pay a friend to be there with me for that day because I'm asking them to give up their Saturday with me. So yeah, it's just a lot. And so with GCAF being only £35, you're not going to be too much out of pocket in that sense. But I'm hoping that everyone does have quite a good day because they're going to have stuff that you can't get anywhere else. Like, I'm very much looking forward to Craig Patton's Alfred Shags the DC universe. I really want to see that. He says he's not going to have a printed one there, but he might have a QR code to let you buy a digital version, and I want it.
Fair play. I don't know. I don't know how. I had a very similar conversation with somebody this week about putting together like. So I was chatting to someone this week who showed me a really awesome piece of art they'd done, and I was like, "Could you not?" And I was like, "You see, if you like did that with like it was like an animal thing," and I was like, "You see, if you did that with like Pokemon or something like that, and then at a convention, you would make an absolute fortune." It was so smart. But then their response was, there's quite a lot of restrictions on like what you can and can't do, and that's when I saw that that's what Craig was doing. This week, I was like, I don't know how DC are like not nailing him.
It's a great area.
Yeah,
fan art. It's fan art. It's a very great area. Yeah, I do a lot of fan art, and a lot of my stuff isn't licensed. While I do license stuff as well, so it's a great area. you kind of fall under. I mean, Topps, who do stuff for Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars, they don't like you selling unlicensed Star Wars stuff. And they kind of got on us about that. So we had to be very careful about what we were showing. So especially, well, at least online. At a convention, yeah, fine, go for it, as long as you're not showing it online. But it's a bit of it is a grey area, because a lot of people, you go to conventions and they will have fan art of something that hasn't been licensed, and you just have to hope that nobody's there to like kind of catch on.
Yeah, because the copyright law is quite grey on that matter. It's if you're selling the product as if it was made by the original company, yeah, big no. But if you're selling it under your own name and you're listing it as fan art and it is your own creation, because what I did for GCAF was to say, hey, you're allowed to sell fan art here, but that does not include taking a picture of something that is already made and putting it on a product. So, for example, you can't take an already licensed picture of Mickey Mouse and turn it into a keychain or a button or a badge. If it's your own fan art, that is your own original artwork. So that's different. But like you said, it depends on that company. It depends on what they want to do and how they see it. And I know that some of the bigger conventions, I think there was one year where San Diego Comic Con had an outright ban on fan art, but that might have been just because of the amount of brands that they had there and they had to keep them happy.
But they were actually there, like Disney were there, weren't they?
And so I get it in that sense.
I've asked that question for years, and no one's ever explained it so concisely as you two have just now. Thanks, Dave.
It is a very, very grey area. Like I say, for years we were doing stuff, but as soon as Disney took over, like the Star Wars aspect of it, there was a big, massive clamp down on what we could and could not do. So I'll have very little in the way of Star Wars fan art anymore. Purely if I want to continue doing what I do, which is weird.
Yeah,
we have a cinema in Dunfermline, and they got nailed by Disney for advert. I think they'd paid and booked up for a showing of the original trilogy at a theatre in Dunfermline. And because they started advertising it before they had it signed off or something, it was about their timing. Lucasfilms just turned it, or Disney or whoever, the overseeing, just turned around and said, "Yeah, we're not going to give it to you anymore. You should have waited." And it was generally that was it. They were like,
"Oh, I remember that. Was that the Alhambra about maybe 10 years ago?" Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Again, that's in the case of you're showing off a licensed product that is owned by that company. Because I wanted to have some movie screenings at GCAF, and then someone reminded me of that. It's like, wait, no. If you're doing independent films, that's different. Because I really wanted to show off some brilliant, mature content animation stuff like Fritz the Cat, because that's brilliant. And but then someone reminded me, hey, wait, hold on, that's owned. Like, oh wait, yeah, you know what? Leave it, forget it. I don't want to go through that issue. So
definitely.
It's also I'm right to think that this is obviously the first time GCAF's run, isn't it? So that's something that you could be looking at for in the future. There's nothing to say you can't do that. Just but there's
I would maybe like to get, say, a film company. I know there was the Glasgow Anime Club for a while. They did film screenings, so they might have permission to do stuff like that. But if I can find a way to do it, that would be good. But it's got to be done properly, because the moment someone reports you, ignorance is not something that you can claim. You've got to follow what the procedure is. So anything that is copyrighted, if it's not yours, don't touch it.
It's the things you learn, at you know what I mean, I bet you weren't even thinking about this whatever a year ago, when you're straight away you're you think of an idea or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I need to worry about this bit of paperwork and that bit of paperwork and your risk assessments and your public liability insurance and your all this sort of stuff that you're.
Well, that's the handy part of having a venue that
totally.
So rather than say I had my own building, or if I was hosting it out in a public space, Trades Hall has its own insurance, so it's covered for all those types of things. It's covered if someone gets hurt or something like that. But again, what it says in the GCAF exhibitor guide, which is say your products get damaged, the venue isn't liable for that. Those are your products. So if someone dropped water on your table, knocked the table over, or if there was a fire, like your products might not be covered by their insurance. So have your own insurance for your own products.
Yeah.
So you do need to be careful of that kind of thing. But at the very least, the venue has its own insurance, and that's not something I have to worry about or pay for.
That's absolutely fair dues. Yeah, your vendors guide was amazing. It's like, look at that. It's like, well, I didn't even think about this. This is quality. Like, mine was all done by group chat, and it was just like folk asked me questions, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Well, again, I've just learned a lot from being at other conventions. Like, good chunks of that exhibitor guide were taken from other guides that I've had over the years. Like, a good chunk of it was borrowed from the Glasgow Goth Market, because so much of his was from the trades hall anyway. So a lot of it I copy pasted and altered to suit what I needed, because it was already ideal. And then other bits and pieces I kind of added on, like a lot of it regarding what content can be on display. That was all what I came up with, and double checked it with people, because I know people were going to ask, because this is something new. We're not used to being able to display anything potentially mature or violent or graphic. So I had to make sure people were aware of what they could and could not display. And the two big rules were nothing that glorifies violence. So like violence can be there, but it can't be something that glorifies it. And the other one was nothing that depicts underage characters. And to try and make that very clear, even if the character's 200 years or 4,000 years old, if you could pass them for underage, then you have them there. Like, just be safe that way. Doesn't matter what their character age is. If they look underage, then you have them there.
Okay. Let's that's really it was totally reasonable. And like I say, when I read the vendor pack, I was just like, the amount of thought and effort and considerations that you put into it was really commendable. Like, to say, like, it did make me look into other conventions I've been at and be like, did we ever get these vendors packs at other conventions? Like, and if we did, like, and obviously most of them we have, but I was just like, oh, like, but you made it very clear. And like, whereas I say, like, we've done Acme before, and I've done Thought Bubble twice, and I never thought to actually look for a vendor pack. I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants and just showing up one morning and being like, where's my table? So we're here, yeah.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But Acme does usually send you one. I know Decon sends one as well.
What? No, they do. So, who have you got then? Coming to is like, obviously you mentioned Craig Payton. We've had him at the show before. And, like, a really phenomenal guy. Like, we really his work on the sort of the original Kiltopia, and that was great. Like, what else have you? Who else have you got coming that you're excited?
Let me see. There's Chris Manson. Or Mason. Oh yeah, always forget how to pronounce his last name. But he's been trying to create some new comics in time for this, but he might not have it done in time. But he is going to at least have his sketchbook stuff there, so it's going to be exciting to see some of that. And that's something I've been trying to encourage people to do. Even if you don't have a finished product, bring some of your unfinished stuff, because that can be quite nice to see. Rather than all your polished and finished pieces, bring over your sketch stuff. But let me see, who else have I got coming? I've got quite a few. Again, I asked, should I prepare something? Let's see. Because there's a few people that were coming then couldn't come. Coin Operated Press is going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be lovely. Nico Paws. Got yourselves coming. So yeah, Chloe Hepburn's going to be there. Bigfoot Digital Art were going to be there. Let me see. So yeah, like there's quite a few folk that were coming and then couldn't come. So a few names have been swapped about. So I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. So the ones I do remember: Connor Cottontail, The Little Shop of Chaos, Chris Manson. You guys are coming along. Can't remember most of the other people right now because I don't have the list in front of me.
Right, you're all good. Yeah. Sorry, I should have sprung on you. I know you.
So is it an over 18s event?
Yes, absolutely
It is,
over
yeah.
18s event. Yeah, and
Over
that's what it
18s
says.
only, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's what it says on all the advertisements. And
Yeah.
on the ticket website for Eventbrite, it does say age 25 will be applied, and that also applies to the vendors as well. Like,
Yeah.
if I think any of you are underage, I am IDing you. I will be checking.
I'm old enough. I'm old enough. Look at this.
I do have a like. I think that's really fascinating. My oldest is going to Acme on the same day. He's 16, and I think it's the first time ever where we've both been going to conventions on the same day, but they're not the same convention, even though they're in the same city, which is it's interesting. But yeah, I had to ask you. Obviously, David Crana's coming. He's Glass City Comics, but he's also he's part of. But he's a Brewgooder. He was asking, will there be alcohol if it's over 18?
Yes. Oh, this is exciting. Yes. Oh, now I remember who's coming. O'Donnell's Moonshine are going to be there.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. Oh, I met them at the Glasgow Craft Fair, like the hobby craft fair that's at the SCC twice a year. I was there in September last year with a friend because I took her there to understand that she's never been properly skint until she's been to a craft fair. And O'Donnell's Moonshine were there, and the rep was lovely. And I bought like a couple of jars, like mason jars of cookie moonshine, sticky toffee, macadamia, wild berry. So good. Like, that's what I'm having right now. It's toffee moonshine and apple tango. It's so good.
Nice.
It's really nice. So they're going to be there, and they tend to have like wee sample cups there for everybody to try. There was going to be a saloon bar there, but it would have taken away vendor space. And it would have cost like a good chunk of extra money to have them there too. So I thought, why not have an alcohol vendor there? Because if people are going to have to pay for drinks, why not make it a really good drink? Because I don't know what the menu would have been for that saloon, if it was just going to be mediocre beer or not even decent cocktails. Like, I don't know, because typically they serve weddings, so it might have mostly just been a wine menu. Because when I was asking them about food, if we could have food at the event, I couldn't have a food vendor. So I was asking them, well, what food are you able to supply? And the menu they gave me was very much for weddings, like finger foods, and it was and it was priced like per person. So it's like, well, that just doesn't suit. So O'Donnell's Moonshine are definitely going to be there, and they will have plenty of samples out. And I did ask if they might be able to make a signature cocktail for the day, but they might not have time for that. But definitely excited for them to be there. Please try the cookie moonshine. It is the best. Have it in hot chocolate. It'll be the best night you've ever had.
Amazing. That's so exciting. I was just and I think just like it's £3 for entry, isn't it? So
yep. And there's additional tickets. So it's £3 for entry, and then if you want to go to say the live drawing, that's £10. But you're in there for a good hour, and then there is the lino printing workshop. So again, that's a tenner, but that money is meant to go towards those people, so that's not going into my pocket. That is for them. £5 for the lectures. So that includes like yourselves for the panel, but that is like mainly to secure you a seat. So it's to ensure that you get to see all of those panels and lectures and such, and you get to secure a seat for it. So that way, if you need to leave for a few minutes while there's an intermission, you come back, you will always get your seat again. And again, it's to go towards you guys to give you a wee bit of a thank you. Because pretty much all the vendor table money has gone towards paying for the venue. So anything else that I can pull in, I want to give it to the people that have donated their time to me.
I think it's just that's really reasonable in terms of like I think that pricing, and the reason I mention it is like talk about like Acme, for example, just because it's the most obvious one because it's next week as well. And we talk about this quite a lot on the podcast about that. Like I think Andrew calls it Con Wars, but when you go to like some of the bigger shows like Acme or like MCM or like the London Film and Comic Fair and stuff like that, you like I took my 16-year-old and my 8-year-old to Acme last year, having been there as a guest, and really it's a great event. but it was 60 quid for the three of us to get in. By the time, like, and that wasn't including like we're coming from Dunfermline, so maybe about 15, 20 quid on petrol, and then say I know Glasgow well enough that I know where I can park to take advantage of free parking. But like if I didn't, like, and that's another tenner, you know, and then it all adds up, and it's like, but as a consumer and as somebody that is going to a convention, that's all coming out of my pocket. So like, I maybe have, I don't know, 50 or 60 quid. You know, if I know event's coming up, I maybe got about 50 or 60 quid to spend at this event. So if I'm paying 60 quid to get into Acme, like that 60 quid obviously takes a massive hit, and I have to then start thinking about like, do I need to take more money at the bank? Am I having to tell my kids they can't have something? You know, something and all that sort of stuff. So like, I think what's amazing about events like GCAF is like, you know, 3 quid, like that as a tabler, as somebody like, or as a vendor, like that's more money being spent in the hall because you're not having to spend as much money to get into the hall. So
definitely, because this is going to sound like the nerdiest thing bloody ever, but I kind of got the strategy from Roller Coaster Tycoon. yeah, because you get more guests in Roller Coaster Tycoon by having the park be cheap. More people arrive that way, or if they get like a voucher code to get in cheaper. But you wait for it to rain, and then you up the umbrella price up to like the full max that you can get. So yeah. Cheap to get in, but you spend more money while you're there. Whereas if you spend more money to get in, less money to spend while there. So, yeah, I'm trying to make sure this is more beneficial for the vendors more than anything, because otherwise they won't come back, and any reputation I managed to build would be gone within the first hour, and then I'll feel bad.
I think you're doing everything as an organizer. You're doing everything you can. And I think that it's really obvious just speaking to you, and that's certainly like, I have been to events where like I've paid for my table and I've got there, and then there's like nobody, and you're like, where are all the folk that should be coming to this event? And then I've talked about this before. I won't name names, but I've been at events where I know that the organizer of that hall is the only guy that's made any money that day, and you can see him walking back and forth, and you're like, he's like. Like if we're all like, come on, like we paid quite a lot of money to get a table here. Where are all the folk? You know, I'm like, and I think what you've done is incredible in terms of like getting the presence out there and pushing the name and sharing everywhere. But see, I've been to events where I've paid to be here on the hope that as an organizer you've gone off and like done your bit to bring folk in. That you've not done that, so you're the only person as an organizer. You're the only person that's benefiting, and I think that's really. And I was like, when I was doing TCAF last year, that was one of the things I was still panicking about. Was like, is folk going to come? Is it worth everyone's time? You know, because but yeah, and I think but yeah, I certainly on reflection of last year, the events that I did better at were the ones that were either free entry or like really central locations. You know what I mean? And I think what you've what you've done as an event is you've nailed the location, and you've nailed like that low cost, like for everybody involved. Like the balance is perfect. So
thank you. I'm gonna cry, man. No, I won't. I promise I won't.
You can cry if you want to. That's fine. I'm joking.
No, I won't. I've got makeup on. All right, my eyes will sting.
Yeah, we're really excited to come. We've got I think we're quite lucky in that as a podcast we've been going for almost 5 years. So I've just been able. So I know quite a lot of folk that are going, and we've been able to rope in. So for our panel, we're just going to do like a live podcast and like have a. So as there's Kranis in the comments, he is really looking forward to next weekend. But David does Glass City. He is. We always say once a good Brewgooder, all a Brewgooder. So he was a regular host on the show until a couple of years ago, and then obviously Colin Maxwell as well, who I think is with you next week as well. He's going to be there, so we're going to rope him in as well. He's doing.
Oh yeah, Third Bear Press is going to be there as well.
Oh, Stephen Ingram, what a guy!
Yeah,
what a guy!
Yeah, very very lovely. I'm actually going to be in his next publication, which I'm very excited about too.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, I submitted a comic about a demonic dinner that may not be all it seems. Basically, it's basically naked sushi. But
oh, right, that's so cool.
I was very happy about that. Although I misread his deadline in the best possible way. I thought he wanted the entire thing submitted for that deadline. Turns out, no, he just wanted the pitch.
Yeah.
So I did the entire comic in 2 weeks, which again,
I'm sure he wasn't complaining about that. I'm sure, as somebody that edits comics from time to time, somebody doing too much too soon isn't an issue. So you're fine.
Yeah. Like if anything, I've already done the work, so it was like, okay, that's the best mistake I could have made. Even though I was so sure I'd read all the instructions correctly, because I wanted to make sure, right, does he want it now or later? Okay, he wants it now. So I don't know how I misread that. I'm terrible at reading. For someone that loves comics, I can't read to save myself.
Well, we're massive fans of Stephen and his work, and the guys at Third Bear Press. Like, and congratulations for getting into one of their books. I sent a story last year, and in fairness to Stephen, and I did like make a point of saying to him when I saw him at the next convention, like his rejection letter is like the nicest worded letter I've ever received. Like I've never received rejection in such an uplifting and like motivating way. Like I have had rejection letters that are like, nah, no, thanks, Jeff. This is not what we're looking for. But Stephen was like, I felt like he was taking me through a counselling session as he was telling me that he was like and he's such a good guy, and they do such good work. And we've had a bit of a running joke at some of the conventions that we do, where we Left by Stephen Ingram's like one of my favourite books ever written, like period, comic or otherwise. So whenever like we're at table, I'm quite good at selling other people's stuff and not very good at selling my own. But I'll often be like, oh, like if folk are like, oh, I don't really read comics, or like I don't like superhero stuff, I was like, go and see Stephen Ingram because he's amazing, and the Third Bear Press guys look after you. So that's cool.
Yeah. There's definitely a lovely crowd of folk, and I think it might be a couple people's first convention too. I don't know. But it'll definitely be really nice to see what people think of it and if it's going to match their expectations. And I hope that the guests that arrive get more than what they expected. That they're able to, and again, like that's a part of why I wanted there to be activities, because if people arrive, they go through all the tables, they might buy some bits, but then maybe after the first hour, that's it, they're kind of done, and they'll leave. Whereas if there's life drawing to do, there's lectures to go see, there's lino printing workshops to do, that's reasons to stay. So they'll go do those, they might come out, they might go grab something to eat, but they might come back for the rest of the stuff that's on for the rest of the day. More opportunities to walk around and see stuff, more chances for people to go, oh, I saw that earlier, but you know what, I've still got the $5 for it, so you know what, I'll go get it. More opportunities for people, because once folk are there and they're done, because I feel that's what happens at Acme a lot. Folk walk around the Artist Alley bit and then they're kind of bored, or they're done, and then they'll go check out the cosplayers, they'll go see the celebrities, they'll go see the wrestling. And Artist Alley's just kind of done after the first hour.
Don't shake your head at the wrestling. I fucking love the wrestling, John.
I'm not shaming the wrestling. I'm just saying.
I'm shaming. I think it's very bizarre.
I'm not used to that. You see him shaking your head. The minute you mentioned wrestling, he's like, oh, somebody else is talking about wrestling on this show.
No. I don't mind wrestling, but I just find wrestling at a Comic-Con, I say Comic-Con, just bizarre. You go around, you buy some comics. Oh, there's a big wrestling ring there. What's going on there?
It was quite noisy. Yeah.
Why are people fighting next to my comics? What's happening?
Yeah, like Demon Logic Productions, who's also going to be at GCAF, he was right next to the wrestling ring, so he had to deal with the very loud banging, the smoke machine, people crowding around his area but not looking at his table. I felt rough for him.
It's a bit much. Previous events where I've been to that have had the wrestling, I've had them in a separate hall. Yeah. Or away from everything else. Edinburgh Comic Con was quite good at James Lundy. It was always in a room adjacent to the main hall. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is something that is pretty noisy. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because how are you supposed to do a sales pitch with that happening in the background?
Yeah, I get. It's the same as like what I love about Thought Bubble is because I've been to conventions. I've been to conventions where they have to have their talks in the same hall, and I have other folk like not even wrestling, but just like having your table close to like where the conversation where the like panels maybe they've got an open floor panel set up. So like, and even that's just like people come in and then standing with their back to your table so they can see a discussion happening across the air. So that's one of the things I like with Thought Bubble is they put all their panels in different areas to stop like people coming into your space but not looking at your stuff. So yeah, it's all fair enough. It's stuff we all learn or we don't really think about until it happens at the conventions. I'm probably blinded by the wrestling because I'm such a massive wrestling fan. I totally get it. I tried to write a comic about wrestling last year. I've written this football comic, which is like a bit like a combination of like Roy the Rovers and the Viz, and I was just kind of playing around with that. I was trying to do it with wrestling, and then realised for something that isn't real, and we know that wrestling's not real. That's like sorry for everybody.
Choreographed.
It's choreographed, predetermined, and choreographed, but it's certainly not like legitimate sport. It takes itself far too seriously, and I was trying to make like a joke comic about wrestling, and I couldn't interview any wrestlers. I couldn't really speak to people because it was just like they felt like I was taking the piss, and I was like, well, no, it's about everybody taking the piss. It's the same as like everybody that watches football knows it's a bit silly, you know what I mean? But wrestling it's super serious. Apart from the fact that there's nothing legitimate about it at all, So that's Krana asking how have the ticket sales been for TCAF?
How have ticket sales been? I get emails like kind of every other day. Like some people have bought 2, some people have bought 3. So I don't know the exact ticket sales right now, but I think it might be somewhere. It's definitely in like the low numbers, like maybe a couple of dozen. But I'm expecting more people to buy tickets as they show up because that tends to be what happens. Not everyone likes buying tickets online because they might lose it, or they don't like buying stuff online, or like they're worried that they'll lose the QR code. Whereas if it can just turn up at the door, pay £3, that works as well. Because like some folk just prefer to do that, and I'll have my card reader and things there too, so people don't have to worry about bringing change or anything like that, or having to break a fiver. Because I always have my card reader on me. So I want to try and make it as easy to get into. But like having the Eventbrite ticket just means that you can just show me and then off you go.
Yeah.
We certainly did. Like when I did it, we did it last year. I didn't sell tickets or anything. It was also free entry, and had played around with the idea of doing like the tickets are free, but please please go into Eventbrite and actually just to get an idea how it was coming. But I'd spoken to a few people who said that that in terms of walk-ons are significant, like massively significant. Folk just walking past or folk coming to the event on the day, that was. That was something, and also like if we have people out on the street handing out leaflets and stuff on the day and things like that.
We're gonna the venue does have this big kind of 81 poster thing that they have. Like it's one of those like things that you see outside shops where it's like a big plastic container sits on a wee pedestal. So that'll have a thing outside on it. So that's going to be on display for people to see. And again, Forbidden Planet have been handing out this. As well, I've got a bunch in Geekaboo too, been handing out wherever I go, and a lot of the other vendors have been handing out leaflets. So I'm hoping that word of mouth does a lot of the work. And again, I think a lot of people like to avoid buying tickets online in case they can't go and then they can't get a refund. But it was only it was only like £3 entry anyway. So it wouldn't be a big loss if folk couldn't come. But definitely, I'm hoping more folk just turn up. It's especially if they see the flyers at Acme and then go, "Oh, there's this other thing going on, and it might be more fun. I'll go check that out."
That was certainly something like I printed off loads of leaflets for DCAF last year. I didn't really think about it, and went and did all the shops in Dunfermline. And then was like, actually, I still had like 200 or 300 of these flyers left because they're, the more you buy, the cheaper they are, effectively. Yeah. And actually, probably
I was going to get like 1,000, but for an extra £3, I could get 2,000.
Exactly. We did exactly the same. and we did exactly the same. And the thing that I actually ended up getting my son and his pals on as volunteers. They got paid by they got paid in DC Thompson yearbooks, which they were quite happy with. But they just walked up to them from High Street with these leaflets, and the amount of folk that just walked in that were like, "Oh, I didn't even know this was on," and then this wee boy gave me this leaflet. It was like was significant as well. So like. So.
Well, I definitely have like a couple of volunteers for the day, and any volunteers that are about, their main job is just to guide people along, like make sure that none of the halls are clogged up. When the lino printing or the life drawings on, they can guide folk to there, just because there is quite a few different halls and bits and pieces to move around, so you can easily get lost. So their main job is just to be guidance, because someone volunteering their time, I'm not having them doing like a big load of work. So giving them a pile of leaflets to hand out on the day on the street is a good idea. I never thought of doing that, so I might try that on the day if they're up for it.
That's the kind of scene as well. Like it was just a total, like, just trying to help everybody else as much people. I think big fan of the thanks. Big fan of the Comic Art Festival concept as a whole. Like I prefer it to. So I'm just saying thanks for that. My son just brought me a milkshake from McDonald's. So. Listen, but yeah, Nat. So can you please just before we let you go, because I did say I'm very much aware that we said 20 minutes to half an hour, and it's now 51 minutes. So we're totally buzzing for next week. I'm really excited to be there. I'm as I say, like I'm doing the lifts. So like myself, Andrew, Colin, and John will all be in my wee Fiat 500. Like God rest her soul. But yeah, please tell us, like, for anybody that's like, oh, this sounds amazing. Where, just run through the event piece for us if you could. That'd be amazing.
Run through what? Sorry.
Just the ins and outs, like where is it, how much, like times and all that jazz.
Oh God. Well,
be on the spot again.
No. Well, like I've definitely been planning this for the better part of a year, and a good chunk of that was just trying to find a venue. And then when I finally did, it was like full throttle from there. It was advertising it across Instagram and in Discord groups. And then people just started signing up for it. And I've been trying to do everything manually. It wasn't until like a bloody week ago I found a free ticket sign up service that would have allowed people to buy a table, would have made my life a lot easier instead of using Google Forms and Google spreadsheets.
No.
Because as good as my spreadsheet system has been, there's definitely been a big bundle of hiccups with it in terms of like, oh bugger, I thought this person hadn't paid. Turns out they hadn't, because PayPal invoices were being a nightmare. Yeah. So definitely next year, I'm going to have a much better system to keep track of all that, just so that way I'm not because after like a day of work from 8 till 6, I'm coming home and spending maybe an hour or so doing my admin, and a lot of it is updating that spreadsheet and making sure that people have been sent their exhibitor packs, that have received their invoice, all that type of thing.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you. It's been tiring.
Yeah, but it'll like come 9:30, 10 o'clock next Saturday when like the dust settles, and you can actually, like, there'll be moments throughout Saturday that'll be really surreal, but you'll just be like, oh, I did this. And then, as I say, towards the end of the day, you'll be like, so it's 4 till 9 on
4 till 9, yeah.
Saturday the
9th.
Saturday the 9th. Saturday the 9th at the Trade Halls in Merchant City, Glasgow.
And Glassford Street, yes.
Yeah, amazing. And entry £3. Yeah, amazing. Well, so thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. We would normally talk about other geeky stuff, but I'm very much aware that I told John that we'd finish at 9:30. I can see the clock.
It's okay. I've got a few minutes yet.
Awesome. So will we just do a quick run through what have folk been interested? Have you read anything, John, this week? Have you seen anything this week that you want to plug very quickly?
I am currently reading right now Stephen Colbert's Tech Jansen. Stephen Colbert from the Daily Show and the Colbert Report and the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That's his comic.
And it's not Lord of the Rings themed?
It's not. It's Tech Jansen. It's a comedy Dan Dare type thing. It was actually came out in 2008. I'd never heard of it, and I saw it on eBay the other day. I thought I'll buy that. And
I was watching the Colbert Report back at that point as well. Like, I didn't know that existed. That was
I love all that stuff. Yeah, it's great. I bought a Colbert Report DVD the other day as well, and I've bought a Daily Show DVD that's like 20 years old but still entertaining as hell.
Yeah,
fantastic. And I've been watching Slow Horses on Apple TV.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Yeah, I binged all 18 episodes over like 2 days. It was my weekend off, and I thought, you know what? Put on Slow Horses, episode 1, right? Okay, episode 2, episode 3. Next thing I knew, all 3 seasons were
down the rabbit hole, and
it was glorious. So, Slow Horses, highly recommended.
That's amazing. I've been reading very quickly. I've been reading. I went to the comic book shop in a couple of months for the first time in ages. Actually, I went to the Little Shop of Heroes, my local comic book shop, and I got the second season of we'll call it the second book of Blue Book, which is the James Tynion's series about Project Blue Book, which was set up in the 1940s to deal with. It was the U.S. Air Force's way of tackling all the reports of like lights in the sky and little like flying saucers and all that sort of stuff. And so season 1 was about the Hill family, who in the 1950s were believed they were abducted by aliens, and Blue Book was like the research into that. And it was an amazing series. I really loved it. So book 2 is it's called 1947, and it's about a plane, a pilot who is flying around a mountainscape in sort of northeast America, and he sees lights in the sky. And it's the story that basically it was from his interviews with newspapers where the flying saucers like term was coined, because that's what he saw. He saw flying saucers that day, and that became like the language and the zeitgeist, and the term flying saucers came from his original reports. And I'm glad Stuart's not here, sorry, because I also read Godzilla Best of Gagan, which is a funny book. It cost me about £8, and it was just four issues from different Godzilla comics over the last 10 years, but they're all themed around Gigan, who's one of the other fairly it's Stuart saying that the cover looks good. It's really smart, Stu. I'll give it to you next time I see you. I really enjoyed it. It's just 4 random issues of Godzilla comics, all featuring like the Kaiju Gigan, who's like this weird space alien one, and TV programs. I don't know where this was recommended. It might have been you or it might have been Andrew, but I've been watching Shoresy. Have you seen? No, I don't. It wasn't you.
No, it wasn't me. I've never heard of it. What is that?
It sounds like you've merged Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore, yeah.
Yeah. So Shoresy is a guy. It's a sports comedy set in like the sort of northern sort of Quebec area of Canada. It's like a hockey comedy, but it's just very funny in that.
All right. Okay.
Fucking horrible.
Get into hockey.
Yeah, it's good, and it's just like obviously it's just got that sort of Canadian flair. Half the cast speak French, but in the half speak English. Just really good and just very, very funny, very crass. A lot of like ripping each other's family members and stuff. It's just, I totally recommend it. What else did I see this week? I had all this prepared. I saw June last week. Like it was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine. I enjoyed it. It was fine. It was a massive. Is the word I would use to describe it. It was so grand, but part 1, I felt like I watched it in preparation for part 2, which comes out tomorrow, and I watched it in preparation for that, and I felt like I was watching felt like I was watching the preview of part 2. Like it feels like it's all building towards something, and then it just sort of ends. But that build up's like 2.5 hours, which is quite weird. It's just like this total massive escalation that. Remember you watched Infinity War and it just felt like it was getting bigger, and then it just stopped. Yeah, kind of the same vibe for that. So, and the other film I watched this week because it came up on my telly was talking about sports comedies and dramas, was Underdogs, starring Snoop Dogg.
What?
It's
No.
I really enjoyed it. He's a failed American football player who like gets arrested for drunk driving and gets put in charge of a Pee-wee American football team of kids from a. And
That's Mighty Ducks. That's Mighty Ducks.
It is, right? It is right. But even it
also
acknowledges the fact.
with Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, man. That is every sports film.
No, it is to the point that to the point that when they reference that throughout the movie, like they don't shy away from the fact that they're ripping off Mighty Ducks, to the point that like I think Snoop Dogg lets the kids down at one point, and his like assistant coach / like lazy best friend's like, man, Emilio Estevez is going to be fucking raging at you. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very knowing. It was very funny. I think it's not being reviewed very well. It's been reviewed as kind of like a bit cheesy, a bit sweary, but I enjoyed it. So Underdogs with 2 G's.
Sometimes it's lovely having a good cheesy movie, something that is just like for a laugh. We don't need like, a constant stream of Oscar winners. Sometimes I want a laugh. Sometimes I want something that is just made to be stupid.
That is it. There are films out there that you can just put on, sit back. You don't have to think about anything. You know, it's like a comfort film. You know, so if that's your comfort film, Jeff, you're welcome.
I think I would agree with that. I think that would slide into my comfort film list quite easily.
Yeah.
Watch it again. It was just funny. It's just funny watching Snoop Dogg. I think he's a criminal. His comic timing's pretty good. I think he's criminally underrated as an actor. Actually,
I did enjoy him.
Sure, he's always the pair of them are funny together.
I enjoyed Snoop Dogg and Starsky and Hutch. The Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson.
He was great. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
Forget
he was in Monk as well.
Monk.
Yeah. He was in an episode of Monk. Yeah,
wow.
TV show.
That's coming on Netflix, I think. Monk. I'll have to watch that again. I enjoy Monk.
I'd say Stuart St. Chow in Soccer is his cheesy sports comfort movie, which is now on Netflix.
Major League is mine. You ever seen Major League?
Yeah.
So good. So I wore out my VHS tape back in the day. I've got the Blu-ray and DVD version of that. So yeah,
I love a cheesy sports comedy. Like they have their moments. Like, but that was me. What have you read anything or seen anything this week, Sarah, that you would plug?
I've not been watching a lot of telly recently, just because I don't have Netflix. I don't have live telly. I watch a lot of YouTube though, so been watching a lot of gardening and cooking and a lot of Reddit threads. Like I watch a lot of those channels that just go through Reddit threads of like, you know, am I the asshole or Bridezillas. I love the Bridezilla one so much. In terms of reading though, I do have a few bits that I've been meaning to get through. So I got Snowpiercer recently.
Oh yeah.
Because I loved the film for that. My dad and I watched that together, and I really loved the film. So I want to check out the comic because usually, if the film is that good, comic will always be better. So I really want to go check it out.
Yeah.
And I was recently asked to provide some comic recommendations that because of a lovely teacher that reached out to me. She is asking about what are some brilliant comics that have got good protagonists and morals in them, because it might be a question that goes on the National 5 English exam. So I was trying to find some really good ones. So I picked out Black Ads. I also picked out Persepolis because that's just a very good political one that everyone can relate to. Also picked out the Darren Shan manga, like if because the Darren Shan Vampire Saga was a brilliant kind of like preteen or like, it's good for all ages. I read it in high school, and it is the journey of a young boy who nearly got his friend killed via a spider that he stole from the circus, and then has to become a vampire in order to make amends. So it becomes the whole tale of what happens to this boy after the first book. And a manga was made for it. Phenomenal. The person got it perfectly done. So I recommended that. Definitely read that one because it's already based on a very good set of books that are worldwide acclaimed. So go for that one because then you can relate it back to novels. I think I also recommended The Adventure Zone because that's based on the podcast. Yeah, that's based on the podcast.
That's a great point,
podcast by the McElroy brothers. And I thought that is a brilliant comic series because again, it's adventure. It's going into some of the tropes of adventure play, as well as different character dynamics and how they work. So yeah, I recommended a bunch, but I've got a couple of the other Black Sads to read. I've got the Amarillo, and what's this one? Silent Hell. Silent Hell. So I've still got those to read. So I managed to get a good few bargains on Vinted recently, so I'm looking forward to reading all them.
Cool.
I never thought about buying comics on Vinted.
There's loads. There's a whole category for it. There's just no genres, so you are, you are subject to a chronological feed. But there was someone who was selling the entire hardback collection of The Walking Dead, and I wanted it so bad, but they wouldn't knock down the price. Like I think the entire thing would have cost me £350. I thought I don't have it, and now what's happened is someone's bought the first two, and the rest of the collection's just sitting there. I'm like, no, I wanted the whole thing.
Nightmare.
I think maybe the first 6 I've got, and they're brilliant. But I bought the 7 and was like, actually, I'm not really I'm kind of done with this. So yeah, the guy should have taken the reduction. I think a lot of people start Walking Dead but don't tend to finish it. So if you're being offered a price, you should.
Like, I wanted to finish it. Like I wanted to get deep into it because now that a lot of the hype has died down for it, I wanted to read the comics again and just enjoy them. I recommended Fables to them as well because that's a brilliant one. Especially the first one, because the first one you can just enjoy by itself because it is basically a detective story with fairy tale characters. That's ideal for English literature because everyone knows the Grimm's Brothers versions of these stories as well as the Disney versions. So the comic plays with that as well as it's a detective story. So ideal for a Nat 5 exam.
It's quite exciting. I didn't realise this at the time. I quite like the Telltale games, like some of the Telltale games.
I was overjoyed when that game came out.
I didn't realise it existed. I played the first Walking Dead Telltale game and I didn't really enjoy it, and I know that makes me probably one of like 2 people in the entire world that felt like that. I really liked their Back to the Future game, and I really liked their Wallace and Gromit great game, and I didn't know they did one for Fables, so I only found out the other day.
It's called The Wolf Among Us, and absolutely brilliant game. I thought the art style they did was great. The fact that they did a prequel, that gave me such relief because it meant they weren't trying to recreate the comics, because trying to turn a comic into a game, it's 2 completely different mediums. It doesn't flow the same way. But to do a prequel of stuff that was mentioned in the comics, perfect. And there's been rumours that there will finally be a Wolf Among Us 2, but I don't know. But it's still a brilliant game by itself, and I absolutely do have a crush on Bloody Mary.
Sure it is. I didn't know. I didn't know it existed until this week. So I got paid today, so it's on my list of things. But is everyone else? Anyone else that wanted to blather chat about plug this week?
No, I just picked up issue 2 of Caged Rats from Simon Forrester, our guest last week. So I picked it up. It came in the post the other day. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but looks like more of the same fantastic stuff from the Caged Rats team: Simon Forrester, Colin McGregor, and Nico Toran. So looking forward to giving that a read. But other than that, it was all slow horses for me. So.
Well, did either of you watch Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss?
Has Been Hotel is on my list to watch, yeah.
Well, you can check out Hell of a Boss, which is by the same people, but that's for free on YouTube. I recently bought some new stuff from the website, so that's like the wee scribble versions of the characters.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Cool.
Oh, brilliant wee pins. I was so happy to get them. But yeah, definitely check that out because it is by the same studio, and again, it's mature content. It's the kind of thing where you get people looking at it going, it was a cartoon, it must be for children. Nope, there is swearing, there is fucking, there is hellfire, there is everything in this. Yes.
Yes.
I say Paddy asking, have we watched Pluto though?
Ooh, not yet, no, but I am excited to watch that because the manga artist for that does one of my favorite mangas, which is Monster. So I've been looking forward to checking out Pluto because Monster was a pretty good anime. It was a pretty good manga as well. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with Pluto.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Good. I'm glad you knew what he was talking about. Yeah. Amazing. Right. Thank you so much for joining us. John, thanks again for helping me out.
No problem. It's fine.
Look forward to seeing everybody next week. We've got Damien from Crowdfunder hopefully joining us to talk to us about. He was supposed to join us a couple weeks ago and wasn't able to. So yeah, next week hopefully chatting about the crowdfunding world. So, you know, he is one of the managers on a platform, and I'm quite keen to talk to him about how, you know, I spoke to him very briefly at Thought Bubble last year. Where we talked about how like a lot of crowdfunding platforms are struggling with the idea that, and in the same way that we Google something instead of like searching up something online, we tend to Google it. How we kickstart things when we're talking about crowdfunding, and how Kickstart seems to be becoming that's the language for crowdfunding. And obviously, like, there's so many other platforms out there for crowdfunding and stuff. So we're talking about that and like the benefits of one and not the other and stuff. So that'll be pretty fun. And also, obviously, like a week on Saturday, on the 9th of March, we're all going to be at Glasgow, which we're really excited at for GCAF. Trade halls.
I am so excited, but also shitting all the bricks.
No, that'll be great.
That'll be amazing.
That'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be great. So yeah, we'll hope to see everybody there. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz, and we'll catch everyone next week. Cheers, team.
Bye.